Okay, hello. So we're going to do something I haven't done before, but I've seen and read about it. This is we're basically going to add fresh wax to this foundation, and my understanding is that the bees really love, one, clean foundations, that's a must, and two, the fresher the wax, the more the wax, the better they like it. So once we get the wax melted, I'm using a crock pot, hopefully that'll work. We're going to take a foam brush roller, and we're going to dip it into the wax, and then we're just going to roll until we get a little bit of coating on the tops of all these little cell designs. And then once that's done, we'll go to the next one. When we're all done, we'll flip them all over and do the tops again. When we're done with that, we're going to do about 30 frames today. So hopefully it works. Okay, so now I'm going to dip the roller, foam roller, into the wax and roll these boards. It's the first time for everything, and this is going to be it for me. So we'll get a little wax here on the roller, and then just like painting, boy, that looks good. We're going to roll it, and you can see, I hope you can see, that you can see that white wax surface on those cells, and that's all we're really shooting for. The rest of that is too much wax, although they'll make use of it. When they make their own comb in the wild, they actually make smaller cells than what you get from the commercial pieces. They make smaller cells, and obviously there's no foundation. They do it all on their own. So it's really hard to mess up as a beekeeper with bees, because they know how to correct all our mistakes. The only mistakes we make that we shouldn't make is not leave them enough food for them to eat. And when they starve to death, that's the end, and it's totally the beekeeper's fault. Unfortunately, I've been guilty of that. And you do it once or twice, and hopefully you're smart enough to avoid that in the future. So there it is. I'm sure I could get smoother at it, but as you can tell, we've got a light surface of wax over all these cells, and with the smell of that wax as well as the presence of it, I'm expecting the bees to be more readily wanting to come in and to draw the comb out. So the reason we're doing this today is I've got two new beekeepers, two suicidal volunteers that are going to take 3 hives up to their property. And so I'm walking them through different aspects of beekeeping while we're waiting for it to get a little warmer outside. But basically we're going to take these foundations with us and install them into frames, and then we're going to have those ready and dust-free and ready to go for when these 3 hives up at their location are going to be ready to use them. So now we're progressing with getting our frames with the wax on, and we're getting better at smoothing it out and just getting the edges, but extra wax they'll just reuse. So these look pretty good. They smell good. And so now these are for deep frames, right? And so I've got a frame pre-built. Some people don't put the last board in until they put the foundation in, but I just pop it in after we're done. So now I'm going to find the slots and stick it in there, and then just press it and bend it so I can catch the edge into the slot at the top. And I just need to fix that one little spot, and we should be good to go. There it is. So now it's in. It's got wax on both sides. We'll pop it into the deep, and then we'll use it as a super on top of the hive. Probably do this in a week or two to give them more room to grow. And they should go in and they should be loving that, because there's wax on all the edges. There's extra wax to pull and use to pull out the comb out, and no dust. Clean and ready to go. So in addition to preparing foundation and adding wax to the foundations for use later this month, we're going to take new queens that I purchased, and we're going to install them into 2 new hives. So basically we're going to make splits, which you take 3 full frames of brood, 2 full frames of honey, so 5 frames, and install it into a deep in this case. And we're going to introduce the queen just as you would introduce the queen into any hive by placing it between the nurse bees within the frames. We'll finish filling out the frames. I use 9 frames per box. We'll put the rest of the frames in with some pulled out comb ready to go, and we're going to seal them up, nail down the bottom boards and top boards, tape them in, seal them in, and then we're going to put them in the truck and drive up to Oklahoma and put them onto the bee yard that we have prepared up there. Okay, so we're going to create 2 new hives, making splits. And to do that, we've set up 2 hives with the bottom board, and I've included 4 empty frames. We're going to put 3 frames of brood and 2 frames of honey to the outside of the 3 frames of brood, and then we're going to have these 2 already pulled out for them to work and use. So we're going to end up with 2 full hives. Then we're going to put the cover board on, the top board on. We're going to nail them down and add the queen, of course, before we do all that. But anyway, so we'll create 2 new hives, and then we're going to take 3 of the hives that we have here on the property. We're going to put them in the truck, and we're going to drive them up to Oklahoma. So at the end of this particular process, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the hives, and we're going to find, make sure that we don't take the queen out. We're going to find 3 frames of brood for each of these, so a total of 6 frames of brood, and 2 frames of honey to put on the outside of the 3 frames of brood. All the nurse bees will come with, and then we'll insert the queens that we have into the brood areas, and then we'll seal them up, lock them down, and we're going to drive them up to Oklahoma. This is one way to make sure that the bottom board in this hive don't separate during travel. We don't want them, they're going to get shaken around and so forth, and we don't want this to separate. Otherwise the bees will get out and they'll fly all over the place. It'll be a mess. Right here? Same thing here. So there's a bigger hammer if you want to use it. So as part of getting ready to transport these bees, we've went ahead and put our staples in on 3 sides. So we've got a good way to keep the top board, the bottom board from slipping off. And then these are entrance reducers. They're made of wood and they fit exactly into these slots, or pretty darn close. Now, whenever you put an entrance reducer in, you always want the bees to be able to go to the bottom side of it and to come in and out of the bottom side. This is going to be the entrance to the bottom board, and I'll show you here why, if you can catch that. And basically the bees, they'll be, for instance, during the winter, they're trying to drag dead bees out of the hive. And if you have it this way, they can easily pull them out. If you have it this way, it's much harder for them. So you have to keep the holes that you intend to use for the reduction area, whether it's this one here, this little one, or here, this larger one. If you're using this, you're going to want to always have the hole on the bottom. So it's as warm as it's going to get, the weather's as good as it's going to get. Unfortunately, we need to go. So we've got our hives sealed down. We've stapled the deep to the bottom board so it doesn't move during transportation. We've sealed down using an entrance reducer and some duct tape and a piece of another entrance reducer so they can't get out here. We've also taped the cover boards, and we did it so no sticky substance was going to be sticking to the bees, or it'll basically stick to them and kill them. So we've got everything we need to get these hives pulled together and sealed down. And once we do that, so now we're ready to move to stage 2, which is we're going to move our prepared hives down into the bee yard, and we're going to start working through and finding our frames of brood and our frames of honey. So now we're going to smoke the hive a little bit, and we're going to go as quickly as we can to find 2 frames of honey, and then we're going to go in deeper into these boxes, and hopefully the queen's been busy and we can pull out 6 frames of brood and still have enough brood left over for the hive, and then we'll be done. If we're not lucky, then we'll have to go into these other hives to find what we need. Add a little more smoke to where the lid is. You'll notice this is a very strong hive. You already see a lot of bees here working the hive. And then I'm going to take my hive tool. I'm going to just partially lift this piece here. And since the wind's blowing from that side, I'm going to smoke from that side. So you can hear the bees. I don't know if you can or not, but everybody's home. Okay, well, there's no simple way to say this. It's cold, all the bees are in, they're not happy, so we're going to have a bit of a trial here. First thing I want to do is look at the cover board to make sure that there's no queen bee in it. And I don't believe I see a queen. They stand out pretty well when they're on the cover board. So I'm going to take these out. And now this is the feeder called the inboard feeder. And I need to switch sides because the wind's blowing the screen in my face, giving me the business. But this is a very strong hive, and they're not happy with this intrusion. So let's get the smoker and see if we can smoke them a little more. But again, I'm seeing lots of nectar and lots of pollen, but I'm not seeing any brood, I'm not seeing enough honey. So we're going to take this top part off, and I'm going to see if I can calm them down a little bit. And so again, you see lots of nectar, some honey, but no broods. Well, they are really busy. This is a tough day to be doing this, guys. It's cold and they are not happy. These are brood for the drones. The drones are much bigger and ununiform, and you can even see the larva in there. But when it's not uniform, that's what it looks like. So see here? Yeah. That's a good frame of brood. This is a great shot of brood. See how it's pretty solid all the way across in a big circle? So that's a pretty good frame of brood right there. It's got a lot of drones with it. And I got to look for the queen before I take this. So we can take this one. This is one. Here, take that, pass it on. Try not to crush any bees or they'll get me even more riled up. This is probably good timing on our part. Let's go ahead and take that one. Unless we can get some better ones. Oh, here's a really good one. You can see the extensive brood that's on both sides of this. And again, I'm looking for the queen. And usually when you tilt up, the queen will run up or around and try to get away from you. Anyone see the queen? Okay, I guess that one's clean. How many we got now? 3?
It's 3. We want 2 per box?
3 per box. 3 of those per box, yep.
Roll them in.
Let's move these in. Just that one. That's it. And then I need that feeder. Yep. Well, this hive's looking pretty strong. That's a good sign. Oh. Just got stung on the chin. That's a lot of honey there. That's a good one for honey. I don't see her. So, in we go. Okay, we're gonna need those queens now. So we're going to put it in between the frames of brood. I'm going to take it down into here, and I'll find a spot that's clear that I can press it into. Oops, sorry. And then I press it in more. So now it's trapped in there. So let's get a cover board, put it on there. That'll help keep them warm. And then just tape it over. Okay, well, we've done the best we could. It was a tough day to do this. I believe at least one of the queens was still alive. We set up our 2 hives. We got them all sealed down, ready to transport. And now we're bringing in the 3rd hive. And with that, we're going to transport them up to Oklahoma. Hopefully give them a home they can have that'll make for a good place for them to be producing honey from. It doesn't always go easy.